Hi, this is Demon of Kolob. I've had a lot of requests, and just people want to know what exactly is up with the Mormon Temple and what exactly goes on. There's a ton of different stories and a lot of confusion, and everything from people saying it's big, secret, evil, bloodletting, satanic rites, to just, oh, it's nothing, it's just, a nice building. Wanted to really set the record straight and tell the truth and just kind of some of what my experience was when I've been through. Now, this will date me, but since I've been through, it's changed a lot, which is the first comment, just if any Mormons are listening to this, how can such a sacred, supposedly important ceremony, and I know how much importance is placed on these ceremonies, they're the ultimate, the penultimate of all rituals and that you have, be correct when it changes so much? And how could it be the original thing from the ancient Israelite in the time of Christ when it just radically changes so much? I'll try to quickly document some of those changes through the years as I'm aware of them. Okay, when I went through, the first thing you went through when going to the temple was, as kids you would do baptism for the dead, and that was just baptisms on behalf of a dead person who didn't have the chance to be baptized by a Mormon. Since Mormons believe they're the only right way, unless an ordinance is done by them, it doesn't count. So they're trying to do all rituals for their dad, and all those rituals must take place in the temple. Then, when a Mormon comes of age and is found worthy, and is a full tithe payer, especially a woman before she gets married or before somebody goes on a mission, they go through the temple, and the first thing is what's called the endowment or gift. And this comes in two parts. The first part is called the washing and anointing, and then the second part is just the actual endowment itself. The washing and anointing is where you are anointed with oil and blessed. Once upon a time, this was done naked. Then, before the turn of the century, they started giving you what was called a shield, which was basically a poncho that was open at the sides, where they could just kind of pretend to touch you and touch you on the sides and bless all the parts of your body. And that was the washing and anointing. A lot of people went through, they didn't really, most of the officiators never got anywhere close to genitals. They were bored to death and everything. It was alleged at one time that there were people who were abused during this ceremony. So that prompted a change about 5 years ago in the Mormon Temple ceremony, where people are no longer naked. They just wear the regular temple robes. Now, when you go into the temple, you wear what's called a temple jumpsuit, and then you take with you into the other part of the endowments, the robes and you have a little apron and that, and I'll explain to that when I get there. So after you go through the initiatory or the washing and anointing, then you go into the main temple session room, and here the rest of the endowment is presented. Most of this is a play on the creation of the world and the story of Adam and Eve. And through this, the Mormon is given certain gifts or tokens which will enable them to enter heaven. Most of these symbols, they're secret handshakes and that. And before 1990, they actually had death penalties associated with all of these, which were to be meant ways that life could be taken if they were ever revealed. Such things were like that were part of this holy ceremony was running your fingers across your throat in the motion of a throat catching. There was one of stabbing yourself and spilling out your bowels. And in olden times, you literally say this. Rather than reveal this, I would slit my throat, let my blood be poured upon the ground for the carrion to eat, and everything. And gradually over the years, this has been softened to where when I went through, all they said is, rather than do so, I would suffer my life making the symbol of the various ways life could be taken to go through. Shortly after I went through, they even removed that part of it. So I haven't been through this, but I now hear they don't even have, they didn't remove the execution of the penalty, is what they used to call it, where they were feigning that, or they just do it and they don't really say the significance of it and how brutal that it actually meant. So a lot of the temple ceremony and a lot of the weirder stuff has been taken out over the years. When I went through, they still had the preacher that was part of it, where they showed the preacher as just a lackey of Satan, and Satan was telling the preacher exactly what to say And this was done to mock the other Christian churches of the time. And that, as word got out of this, it really caused a lot of bad press for the church, so they removed that. And instead of having the preacher say it, Satan said this stuff himself. So, I mean, the temple ceremony, just in 20 years, has morphed greatly. Then after, the creation, Adam and Eve come. When Adam and Eve, they said they're naked in the garden, the Mormon is instructed to put on a little green apron with fig leaves to represent Adam and Eve in the garden. And then as they get these other tokens, they put on the robes of the holy priesthood and then the cap of the holy priesthood. And this is what's been called the temple outfits, kind of look like the baker's cap and the white folded robes with this little green apron that's the figs. Search the internet and you might find a picture of it. Then you're given several commandments and oaths that the Mormons take through this thing. One of them is to obey the law of chastity, which means you don't have sex with anybody other than your husband. The other one is the law of obedience. Men are given this oath, and they swear to obey God as revealed through the modern prophets. Women covenant to obey their husbands as long as they obey God in righteousness. Then the final thing is the law of consecration, in which the Mormon swears to give everything they own, everything they will own in the future, all their time, talents, and possessions, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, if you didn't hear that straight, I will repeat this. This is still in the temple ceremony. A Mormon in the temple covenants to give everything, all which the Lord has blessed them with, all that the Lord will bless them with in the future, and all their time, talents, and possessions to the Mormon Church. If you've heard that, yes, it's true. Then after giving all these things and making all these covenants and receiving these tokens, then they go through what's called the veil. And there's somebody standing on the other side of the veil, and through this veil, the Mormon gives these secret handshakes and tokens that they've been learned. If anybody wonders where these come, most of them are ripped straight out of Freemasonry. And they're just taken from the Masonic Lodge and the Masonic rituals. And so then you go through this veil, and all these things are given, and you learn the rest of the secret passwords at the veil. And then that's all given to you, and then you repeat it back, and then you're brought into the celestial room, which looks like a fancy hotel ballroom. And the ordinance rooms are just like a fancy movie theater, really, where they project a film depicting all this stuff. Except in the Salt Lake Temple, where they actually have live people act all this stuff out. The purpose of the temple is really to dedicate the person to the church. Only full tithe-paying members, only those who are paying all their money, can get in. So it's really kind of a fancy country club ritual. And it makes, emphasized in the temple is how special you are. You are the chosen and the elect of God. And this, of course, makes, the Mormons who go feel very special. And that's the big thing. And so they feel special, they're elect, and then the Mormon church gets more money. It's all kind of a special country club thing, but because they're so secretive about it, you vow to not reveal this stuff. And I said, once upon a time, you vowed not to do it, or your blood spilled and all that. That's decades ago. But where you acted out things, that's not that long ago. I did it when I went through. And they soften that now, and that's kind of taking it out to make it more, palatable and less freaky to people. As they started building more temple and more people went, they didn't want to scare people away, because that's, to have to be worthy to go to the temple, that's their big revenue service. That's why you have to pay your tithing. So that's kind of the wrap-up of the Mormon Temple in more depth. I hope that answers a lot of people's questions. Like I said, I'm not trying to over-demonize it or underplay it, just kind of saying it like it is and what it was when I went through, and just some of the changes, how it's changed a little bit over the years. The version now is definitely less weird than what it was. That's all. Demon of Kolob out.